Welcome to Swanwick Marinas near Southampton, where I am about to board a very special Sanlorenzo SL96A for a rapid dash across the English Channel to Jersey. Now, regular readers of Motorboat and Yachting magazine might recognise this boat because its owner has been writing about the whole process of choosing, buying, speccing and ultimately taking delivery of a big boat like this. And it is he who has invited me on this cross-channel dash to see just how effective a big boat like this is at covering distance quickly, safely and comfortably. Now, the distance from here just outside Southampton to St Helier in Jersey is around about 105 nautical miles, so there is some distance to cover. It is now 8:15 in the morning. I'm due back on a flight in less than 9 hours' time, so we'd better get cracking. My name is Hugo Andreae, you're watching Motorboat and Yachting. Let's go boating. I thought I'd start by showing you how a big boat like this is prepared for a passage that could be rough. We're not expecting too rough weather, but you never know. So anything that might move tends to be put on the floor or strapped down. You can see we've got all the scatter cushions here. That pot will get moved to the floor very shortly. Over here we've got various other things already wrapped to make sure that no damage can occur. Things like this marble table has been covered. We've got extra spare water filters over there. Now, if we go and let's start upstairs, we can have a very quick look round. Here we are up on the flybridge deck, and exactly the same up here. All the furniture has been covered. We've got the sort of canopy covers here, all the furniture carefully stacked to make sure that won't move. Exercise bike under this cover. The helm itself is obviously ready to use. We've got the door open, but again, we've got the canopy covers all the way around, providing some protection. Be interesting to see where we choose to drive from, but like to be a combination of both. This is the main bridge deck. You can see all of those 5 amazing screens. Again, there's more detail during the tour. Crew quarters down here. Well, this is the galley. Again, all the sort of bits of movable equipment already on the floor. We won't go and have a look down there because the crew are on board. Take a quick scan round at some of the cabins. So this is the owner's cabin forward. Again, he's on board, so we're not going to nose around too much, but you can see just things like those flowers, some of the ornaments put down on the floor. And then if we go down to the lower deck, we've got the 4 cabins down here. Now straight away you can see that all the doors are closed, because the last thing you want, doors swinging about, making noises down below. Never quite sure what they are. So this is the starboard guest cabin. Obviously all the ports nice and tightly closed, even things like the bathroom shower door locked so that they're not going to move. Exactly the same in here. Everything carefully closed up, shower door locked. I'm going to have to close these doors behind me because that would not be a welcome addition. And again, 2 more over here. Smaller double, all the lights off, doors closed, all of them en suite of course. And the 4th cabin through here. Right, that's how it's prepared. Now let's get going. It feels like an awfully big boat in a fairly small river. Just pulling up those fenders because we've got asymmetric decks. The side deck on this side is at flybridge level. So they come all the way up here and then along this asymmetric deck that drops down into that foredeck area. And then stow those fenders away down a little hatch. Now the engines on this are so powerful that in idle speed it's doing about 7 knots, so you have to very carefully just alternate one engine to the other just to gently nudge our way along this river, using plenty of neutral to keep the speed down. The sun's come out, we're just leaving Southampton water and we're beginning to pick up speed and make tracks for Jersey. We've got a force 5 wind on the nose, so it'll be really interesting to see how comfortable it is punching into the waves and the wind. So this is what it looks like from the lower helm. You can see we're doing 17.5 knots. Got a view of the camera at the rear and over the bow. So we are really starting to motor now. We're up to 20 knots and you can see that plume of white spray being ejected out the stern there. Now it's always interesting to see what it's like on a big boat like this underway at speed. And we've got a fair bit, we've probably got a metre swell or so, or a bit of a chop, but it's all very calm and quiet here in the saloon. You can see little wafts of spray coming past the window, so you can get some idea of the speed we're going and the spray we're kicking up. But let's have a little walk through the boat and see how quiet it is. Now this is the beauty of having a main deck master cabin, because you are so far from the engines, there is very little engine noise at all. Get a tiny little bit of squeaking from the hull because this is clearly where it's taking the brunt of those waves, and we're pushing into them and the wind at some speed now. But you can barely hear the engines at all. And look at that view out of one of those big windows at the Isle of Wight, which we're streaming past. Let's take a look at what it's like in one of those lower cabins. Whoa! So see, these are the cabins closest to the engines, so you get a little bit more engine noise. And look at that water piling past. That is quite a sight. Let's go and have a look at the other one. Whoa, it's even brighter in here. See the sun reflecting off that great bow wave streaming past. You probably wouldn't want to be trying to sleep down here, but you know what? It's still remarkably steady and comfortable and pretty refined given the size of those engines and just how close we are to them. But it's worth it just for that view out the port. So cool. Quick progress report. It is now 11:05. We're steaming up the Solent. We're just about to pass Hurst Point. You can see Hurst Castle behind me there. And under some slightly low cloud, you can probably just see the Needles emerging off there. But so far so good. We are on track, cruising nicely. We've got a little bit of tide against us, but we're running at about 17 knots. Now this is what the Solent is absolutely famous for. We've got a nasty little bit of chop on the sea where the Solent narrows between Hurst Point and the Isle of Wight over there. And you can see that bow is just punching straight through it. There's absolutely no slap or slam, the occasional little shudder through the hull, but it is making very light work of it. Thought you might like to see what it looks like from the foredeck. I've managed to duck below the level of the bow, so hopefully we're out of the wind and not too noisy. But you should be able to see behind me here, we are just coming up to the famous Needles. So at this point, we'll then head south and motor on towards the Channel Islands. That is one of the great iconic views of the Solent. You can just see the Needles lighthouse receding into the distance as we power out into the English Channel proper. You can see we're powering along at 22 knots, burning 33 litres per nautical mile. And you can just see on the chart here, that is the Needles, and that's us heading out into the English Channel. I thought it'd be interesting to show you what it's like underway on the main bridge deck and actually talk you through some of the systems. And I'm afraid the shutter speed on the camera means it's a little bit awkward to see, but I will talk you through it and hopefully you can see enough of what's going on. So he's had this specially adapted with this rather cool daybed here, so you can put your feet up underway if you're just keeping the captain happy. And then you've got the main captain's chair here with full control of the Garmin screens and a conventional wheel. But at this kind of speed, it's all done through autopilot using all of the different systems. So you can see he's got no less than 5 screens on the go here. You can set them up how you want. You can see roughly where you are. So here you are on a larger scale. You can see we're just heading out into the main channel, or the main part of the English Channel now, coming towards the traffic separation zones. You can see that in more detail on this one if that bar gets out the way, but you can see we've got the true wind speed and the apparent wind speed. Here we've got the radar set up, and you can just see a couple of reflections coming off 2 big tankers that I can see through the screen up there. And then if we come over here, we can have a look at some of the systems themselves. So these are the main engine flow rates at the moment. You can see on the port engine we're burning 357 litres an hour. On the starboard one we're on 368 litres an hour. So total of nearly 722 litres an hour. It does churn through the fuel at this speed, but then we are doing 22 knots, so the total economy is around about 33 litres per nautical mile. And then over on this screen here, we have full access to all the ship's systems, and it is fully custom modified, so to show exactly what's going on this boat. And I'll talk you through a few of those now. For example, if I click on the porthole button, all these green lights here show that all the ports are closed, and if any of them are open, you'll get a red light. So you know, even from the bridge deck, if somebody has left their porthole open in a cabin. If we go back, we can have a look at the generator system. So we always have to have a generator running on board this boat. You can see we've got this one, the Genset 2, running over here, because you need AC power to run all the different systems. For example, we've got loads of stuff going on. In fact, we've got hydraulics for the thrusters and the stabilizers. We've got side power curve fin stabilizers, but you need it for running all the systems like the big fans. So if I go back here, the engine room, at this speed, it is drawing so much air through those big MTUs that you have to suck air into the engine room to ensure there's physically enough to feed the engine. So we've got one sucking air in to make sure that there is enough air getting into the engine room to feed those engines, and also you can use them to help keep the engine room cool by venting it out the other end. If we go back, we can see we've got the batteries here. And the one thing I wanted to point out here, we've got an emergency battery, and that is stored up on the flybridge, so that if there is a problem, if the boat is actually sinking, the emergency battery will be one of the last things to go, and you can still make VHF calls and any other emergency situations you might be in. We've also got sort of obviously the bilge pumps. Again, you can see absolutely everything, if they're running, if they need to, if they're working. We've got full control of all the light systems, so again, throughout the whole boat, you can turn them on and on. We've got navigation systems, so I can turn on the navigation lights there. You can see the lights come up. Absolute total access to everything. So here we've got the trim flaps. So the whole boat can be run from this bridge deck. You can see complete overview of everything. You can have it all on cameras. You can switch things on and off. And of course, when you're on a long passage like this, we put it on autopilot, and you can just tweak it with little movements, right or left, as you go. So there's really very little to get involved in. It's more a question of monitoring the screens, making sure everything is running as it should. Time for a quick update. So it's now just after 12:30. We're about halfway across the English Channel. We're piling through the waves at around 22 knots. And really, the overriding impression is just how civilized it is underway. It's incredibly comfortable. I'm sitting here in the saloon. You can probably see the waves rolling past me on either side, but it's quiet. I can hear the engines, but I can have a perfectly normal conversation. There's a tiny little bit of creaking from some of the panels around. There's always a certain amount of movement in a GRP boat, however big it is. But other than that, it's incredibly civilized, incredibly comfortable, and we're just hoovering up the miles. You see, we've just got a little bit of shipping Coming across our bows, letting him go first. Still hoovering up those miles. You can see we're just passing a little bit of shipping, but we're well behind them, and we are still just piling through the waves. See the spray coming off the bows, but making very good progress towards the Channel Islands. Quick update, we're making really good progress. We're now in the Alderney race. You can probably see over my left shoulder is mainland France, and over my right shoulder is Alderney itself. We are making really good progress. We've got wind and tide in the same direction, so it's looking remarkably calm at the moment. And before long, we'll catch sight of Jersey over our bow. Right, the owner has very kindly let me have a run at the helm, see how it actually performs. We've got those two big twin MTUs, 2,500 horsepower each. Let's see what it does. We're already in gear. We're just tickling along at 600 RPM and 6.7 knots. Let's put some throttle on. Takes a little bit of time for those turbos. You can hear them whistling away. Okay, now we've got a bit of a kick. Now we're up to 14 knots, 17 knots. I can feel the bow rising a bit. 22 knots, 24 knots, 26, 27. And we're pretty much up to maximum speed of about 28 knots. And what's so deceptive about helming a big boat like this is that it barely feels any different, other than that slight whistle from the turbos, a little bit of an increase in engine noise, but you're so far removed in terms of physically from the water, and there's absolutely zero feel through the helm because it's all electronic steering, that it just feels like exactly the same speed, to be honest. But I can clearly see we're doing 27 knots. Now we've got some fairly big rudders at play here, so we'll just see how it performs. We have got the curved fin stabilizers on, and to be honest, they will take a lot of the effort out of it because they will actually allow a certain amount of lean either way. You have to pre-program them, so I think we've got 1 or 2 degrees of lean. But let's just try a starboard turn. Big old wheel, spins very freely in the hands, and actually it's turning really quite quickly once it's into the turn. Let's try it the other way. There's an awful lot of spinning going on the wheel. Honestly, it might as well be a video game from all the feedback you get. And it takes a few seconds before it starts to react, but when it does, it actually goes very well. Now we'll straighten it up, have a quick look, bring the speed back up. We are now flat out. Now full revs in this is about 2,450 RPM. At that speed, we are doing just building slowly up to about 28 knots. And at this speed, the fuel economy is 34 litres per hour. So it doesn't sound, sorry, 34 litres per nautical mile. More like 350, I would think, is it, litres per hour? Probably more. Okay, well, either way, the important figure is this one here, because that's how many litres you're burning per mile. And given that this is a 100 nautical mile trip, it doesn't take long to figure out that that's about 3,000 litres of fuel we're going to have burnt by the time we get there. But the interesting thing is that it doesn't make a great deal of difference how fast you go. I mean, sure, flat out you're going to be using a bit more fuel, but if we just ease it down, take it down to 24, we're still dropping a little bit. So if we take it down to 23 knots, we can see that the total fuel economy has now gone to 27, 28 litres per nautical mile. So not a massive difference in terms of the actual true economy, because you're burning less fuel, but you're also going slower. Where it really starts to make a difference is when you drop down to sort of delivery displacement speed. So if I let it drop all the way down to 11, 12 knots, suddenly that economy figure really starts to ease down. So we're doing 13 knots, take it down a little bit more. Still dropping. We're now at 11 to 12 knots. That's more a kind of typical delivery cruise, and you can see straight away we're now down to 12 litres per nautical mile. So pretty big difference. If you're doing big distance and you're not in any kind of rush, it really does pay to slow down. But the nice thing is, when you want to get a shift on, there's not a massive penalty to pay between doing 20 knots and doing 28 knots. But by far the most valuable thing that I've learned from this trip is just how comfortable and civilized a big boat like this can be. In terms of the ride quality, we've been powering through is probably a sort of 1 meter swell, and it's simply trounced straight through it. No complaints at all. The very most you get is a little bit of squeaking from some of the panels and leather fittings and so on. But other than that, it has been absolutely solid. Really comfortable, really secure, and it has just eaten up those miles without any sign of stress at all. The time is now 20 past 3. The sun has come out, the water has flattened off, and we're tracking along the south coast of Jersey. We've come around the west side. It's easier passage, fewer rocks to dodge, and everything is looking hunky-dory. Within about 30-40 minutes, we should be in St Helier. Now we're starting to get close enough to the coast to see that very distinctive Channel Islands scenery of the jagged rocks, the lush green hills, and the lovely sandy beaches. The time is now 20 to 4, and before long we'll be entering St Helier itself. Right, it's now 5 to 4 and we are at the entrance to St Helier Marina, and one of the terrifying things about the Channel Islands is the height of the tides. You have a 9-meter rise and fall, and you can see a lot of these rocks here are normally underwater. So we're entering at low tide, they're all exposed, and you can see just how terrifying it looks when those are underwater and you don't know they're lurking there. Now the reason this is called an SL96A is that A is for asymmetric, and that's because the decks are at a different height. So you can see the side deck down the starboard side is at main deck level, and the side deck on the port side is up at flybridge level. So it means you have a very easy flow from the flybridge down to this foredeck area or up from the cockpit. But of course it does mean if you're crewing the boat, you can do the lines on this side either from that higher side deck or the lower one. But on the starboard side, you only have that one choice. So this is where things start to get quite interesting. We are heading through that gap there. We are a pretty substantial boat. We're all ready for it, but we've got to slide through that gap. We've got another little boat coming out in front of us, so we're taking things nice and slowly. We're right at the bottom of low tide, so there's not too much tide to worry about and very little wind. But then we've got quite a lot of boat and some very unforgiving looking stone walls on either side. Luckily, we have some seriously powerful hydraulic thrusters at the bow and stern to help us maneuver around. Now we're too big to get over the sill and into the little town harbour, so I believe we are berthing at one of these pontoons at the entrance. You can hear that big hydraulic thruster grinding away, helping to push the bow around. There's just too much power in the engines to rely on those alone. Now I think the plan is to go in stern first. We're heading for that berth over there. So we're spinning on the spot, and then we'll then slowly ease the stern in and get the lines on. Just starting to line it up. See the water churning away down beneath from where we've been thrusting it into position. There is the berth behind us. The owner is driving from down below using a remote control, so he can get a really uninterrupted view. Got a couple of marina staff there to help us. Easing gently back. Not a lot of space to play with on this side. You can probably hear those thrusters grinding away. Let's take a look down this side. We should very nearly be in position. There we go. I think the first stern line has gone on. And there we have it. We are now officially in Jersey. So here we are, it's 4:15. We've just arrived. We're now safely berthed in St Helier Marina in Jersey. The trip has taken us almost exactly 7 hours since we set off. It took us a little bit of time to refuel this morning, but I think the overriding impression is just what a fabulous way it is to travel on a big boat like this. It has been so comfortable, so quiet. You've got all that space and luxury around you. Granted, it takes a little bit of managing. You need at least one crew member to help out, but the owner has captained the whole thing. He's driven the boat entirely himself, including all the berthing. So if you know what you're doing, it is perfectly possible to captain and run your own boat of this size with a little bit of help. So I hope you've been interested to see what it's like to put 100 miles on a boat like this. We have used a fair bit of fuel. It's about 3,000 litres in total because we're on a little bit of a time scale, but we've put those 100 miles away so quickly and so comfortably. So it just remains for me to say thank you very much to the owner for inviting us on board, and thank you for watching.